I recently sat down to capture some footage for Nightmare Creatures. In 2026, it's usually cited as the spiritual ancestor to Bloodborne, the gothic streets, the serrated blades and the crushing dread, but as I struggled through the first few levels, I realised something uncomfortable. Compared to this, Bloodborne is a cakewalk. In the modern era, we talk about difficulty like it's a badge of honour, but we're playing with a safety net we don't even realise is there. As I was playing, I found myself leaning on save states just to get clean clips. I was using level selects to bypass the repetitive grind, and it hit me. If I were playing this on original hardware, without the cheats of the 2026 emulation, I probably wouldn't have made it past the first hour. We've reached the point where we have completely lost our confidence. Back in the 90s, if you hit a hurdle in a game, that was your life for the next month. You didn't have a choice. You couldn't just close the app and pick from a library of 3,000 other titles. You sat there, you got frustrated, and you eventually begged an older brother to come into the room and get you past that one impossible jump. Today, that hurdle has been paved over. We've traded the struggle for accessibility, and in the process, I think we've forgotten how it actually feels to overcome something. We don't jump hurdles anymore, we just wait for the game to lower them for us. This isn't a standard stop on our journey through the PS1 library. Usually, we're down in the trenches, documenting the individual wins and losses of the 32-bit era, but lately, the process of playing those games has started to reveal something about how the way we play has fundamentally changed. I'm navigating a massive technological safety net every time I turn on the PC. I'm using the tools of today to survive the challenges of 1997, and it's made me realise that we've built an entire culture around the idea that getting stuck is a design flaw. In 2026, we treat friction as an enemy. We want our games to be smooth, fast and respectful of our time, but there's a thin line between respecting the player and not trusting the player. By removing the hurdles, we've inadvertently killed the nerve that used to define this hobby. We've traded the hard-earned satisfaction of a breakthrough for the mindless convenience of a guided tour. Today, I want to talk about why we stopped being brave enough to fail. We're going to look at the depth of the strategy guide, the rise of the AI walkthrough, and how the sheer weight of choice has made us more likely to quit than to conquer. If you wanted to beat a difficult game in the 90s, you didn't have a second screen in your pocket. You had a book. I want to talk about the strategy guide. These weren't just instructions, they were artifacts. They were thick, glossy and expensive. If you were stuck on a puzzle, you had to physically go to the shop, spend your pocket money and carry that knowledge home. There was a weight to the help you were receiving. You didn't just Google it in 5 seconds. You invested in the solution. Because of that investment, you actually valued the answer. You'd sit on your floor, flipping through the pages, studying the maps and memorising the patterns. The guide didn't play the game for you. It gave you the blueprints, but you still had to do the construction. In 2026, that construction phase has been deleted. Now, if we hit a wall, we pull up a 15-second short video or ask an AI to summarise the puzzle. The solution is instant, which means the satisfaction is non-existent. We've replaced the holy text with a fast food solution, and it's changed the way our brains process a challenge. We aren't learning the game, we're just checking boxes. Before the internet became a giant, searchable library of every secret ever conceived, gaming was a social contract. There was a specific hierarchy in the 90s household that has been completely wiped out, the older brother protocol. We've all been there. You reach a boss that feels like a brick wall, you've tried 50 times, you've hit a level of frustration that only a kid with one game and no options can feel. Today, this is the point where you'd probably just close the app and open something else, but back then, you didn't have that choice. So, you went and found the person who could. You'd fetch an older brother, a cousin, the gamer kid from down the street, You'd hand over the controller like it was a sacred torch. Watching them play wasn't just about getting past the hurdle, it was a physical tutorial. You'd watch their hands, see how they timed the jump, and listen to them explain why you were failing. There was a human connection to the difficulty. Getting past the hard part was a shared victory. Today, that social dynamic has gone. We have let's plays, sure, but they're passive. You aren't sitting on a beanbag chair next to the person helping you. You're watching a compressed video of a stranger who already knows the answer. We traded the communal triumph for a solitary exit button. There is a psychological weight to the modern gaming library that we don't talk about enough. In the 90s, if you had a new game, that was the game. Whether it was a birthday present or something you saved up for, you were locked in. If the game was hard or clunky or even a bit rubbish, you found a way to love it because the alternative was playing nothing. You were forced to find the fun. Now we have the opposite problem. We have the paradox of choice. Between subscription services and massive digital storefronts, most of us have a backlog that would take 3 lifetimes to finish. This has fundamentally broken our relationship with difficulty. In the 32-bit era, a hurdle was a challenge to overcome. Today, a hurdle is an excuse to quit. The moment you feel that spike of frustration, a little voice says, "Why am I doing this? I have 50 other games I haven't even touched yet." We turn gaming into a buffet. If one dish is a bit too spicy or hard to chew, we just put the plate down and move to the next one. We've lost the stomach for struggle. Because we have so much choice, the cost of quitting has dropped to 0. But when the cost of quitting is 0, the value of winning is 0 too. Then there's the technology itself. As I've admitted, I wouldn't be able to document this many games without the cheats of modern emulation. Save states are a godsend for a project like this, but they are a poison for a player's confidence. On original hardware, a game over meant something. It meant you had failed the test, and you were being sent back to the start of the level, or worse, the start of the game. That created a physical sensation of stakes. Your hands would sweat as you reached the boss with one sliver of health left because you knew that if you messed up, the next 20 minutes of your life were going to be a repeat performance. That pressure is where skill is born. It's what forces you to actually learn the patterns and respect the mechanics. But when you have a save state, you aren't learning the game, you're just brute forcing reality. You save before a jump, you miss, and you reload. You aren't overcoming the hurdle. You're just deleting the mistakes until the success remains. It feels efficient, but it leaves you hollow. You haven't actually mastered the game. You've just edited the footage of your own life. We've become so used to this safety net that when we play a game that doesn't let us save anywhere, we call it outdated. The truth is, we've just become terrified of the game over screen. Even if you have the willpower to ignore the save states, modern game design often won't let you be smart. There is a phenomenon that's become a bit of a running joke in the community: the yellow paint. In the 90s, if you needed to climb a wall, the developers trusted your eyes. You had to look at the geometry and figure it out. It made the world feel less like a real place. Today, the developers are so terrified of the player getting lost for even a second that they've started painting the world with neon signs. Every ledge you grab is coated in bright yellow. Every door you need to open is glowing. Every objective is marked with a floating waypoint. It's a massive blow in our confidence. The game is essentially saying, we don't think you're clever enough to find the ladder on your own. This is the death of the hurdle in its most literal form. When you remove the possibility of getting lost, you remove the joy of being found. On the PS1, finding the way forward felt like a triumph of observation. Now, it just feels like following a GPS to a grocery store. We've become dependent on the paint, and it's made our spatial confidence completely atrophy. And then we have the final boss of hand-holding. the AI shadow. Nowadays, you don't even have to put the controller down to get help. You can have a real-time conversation with an assistant in the background. If a puzzle looks a bit too complex, you can just ask, and a voice will walk you through it step by step. It's incredible technology, but it's the ultimate confidence killer. In the 90s, the hurdle was a silent opponent. It was just you and the code. That silence forced you to think. It forced you to experiment, to fail, and to try something crazy that might just work. That's where the aha moment lives. It's born out of the frustration of the silence. But when you have a shadow whispering the answers, that silence is gone. You never get the chance to be frustrated, which means you never get the chance to be brilliant. We've outsourced our problem solving to the machine. We've moved from asking for a nudge to asking for a complete walkthrough in real time. We aren't just losing our nerve, we're losing the ability to sit down with a problem until it's solved. We've traded the aha for a thanks bot. Now I want to be clear about something. Accessibility is a good thing. We have more tools than ever to make sure that people with different physical or cognitive needs can enjoy this hobby. And that's a massive win for the medium. But there's a difference between accessibility and Erasure. Accessibility is about giving someone a ramp so they can reach the hurdle. Erasure is just removing the hurdle entirely because you're afraid someone might trip. When developers remove the friction from a game, they aren't just making it easier, they are erasing the specific texture of the experience. The hurdle is often the point of the game. If you take the struggle out of a survival horror title, you aren't just making it more accessible, you're removing the survival and the horror. You're left with a gothic walking simulator where you occasionally press a button to watch a monster fall over. By being so obsessed with retention and making sure no player ever feels a moment of friction, the industry has started to erase the very things that makes games memorable. We're so worried about losing the player that we've stopped giving them anything worth winning. As I work through this project, I often find myself thinking about the human residue left on these old save files. I'll open up a used memory card I bought off an auction site, and I'll see a save file that is about 70% complete, sitting right before a difficult boss. I can almost feel the frustration through the plaster. I can imagine a kid who reached that massive hurdle, hit a wall, and simply couldn't get over it. There's a tragedy in that. But there's also something incredibly real. That save file is a monument to a genuine struggle. That kid didn't just Google the ending. They fought until they couldn't fight anymore, and then they walked away with a story. I have my own memories of this. Puzzles that felt like they were written in a foreign language, where I'd spend days drawing diagrams in a notebook until it finally clicked. That feeling, that absolute internal explosion of I did it, is something I rarely feel in a modern game. Not because the games aren't good, but because they never let me feel the I can do it phase first. Without the I can't, the I did has no soul.
Please assist immediately.
The result of all this hand-holding isn't just that games are easier, it's that we, as players, have developed a confidence crisis. We've become conditioned to expect the answers to be delivered to us. When a modern game presents a challenge that doesn't have a glowing waypoint or a prompt within the first 60 seconds, the reaction is often one of poor design. We've externalised our problem solving. We've stopped trusting our own intuition because we've been told over and over again that we shouldn't have to use it. This is why the 32-bit era feels so alien today. It's not just the controls, it's the attitude. The game doesn't care if you finish it. It doesn't care if you're having a good time in the modern sanitised sense. It sets a bar and it expects you to reach it. That expectation, that belief that the player can be better, is exactly what's missing from the current landscape. By removing the hurdles, we've inadvertently made ourselves feel smaller. There is a deep psychological confidence that comes from being stuck and then, through sheer stubbornness, unsticking yourself. This is the moment where you stop being a consumer and start being a player. So, as I head back into the archives to document the next batch of games, I'm trying to keep this in perspective. Yeah, I'll still use save states. I have to. The hurdle of capturing over 1,000 games is a different kind of challenge. One that requires efficiency to stay alive, but I'm trying to be more aware of what I'm bypassing. Every time I hit quick load, I'm reminded of the friction that used to make these games feel like mountains instead of playgrounds. The depth of the hurdle isn't just about the game design, it's about our relationship with the struggle. We live in a world that is obsessed with removing friction, but friction is what creates heat. The next time you're playing something and you feel that familiar spike of frustration, the moment where you reach for the assistant or the guard, don't. Just sit with it. Let the game be unfair for a while. Let yourself be stuck like it's 30 years ago. Give yourself the chance to be the person you used to look up to, because at the end of the day, the best part of any game isn't the ending. It's the moment you realise you didn't need the yellow paint to find the way home. I'm Parasine. Thanks for taking this break from the documentation with me. I'll be back in the trenches for the next episode. Until then, turn off the hood, ignore the guards, and try to get lost. It's the only way to find out what you're actually capable of.